Hello and welcome to History Bite, and today we're going to be looking at the Motte and Bailey Castle. We're going to find out what it looked like, how it was made, and how William the Conqueror was able to use it to control England after 1066. So first of all, let's have a look at the backstory of the Motte and Bailey and where it comes from. In 1066, William the Conqueror, as he's now remembered, crossed the English Channel with an army of around 10,000 men, and in October won a legendary victory at the Battle of Hastings against King Harold Godwinson. With Godwinson dead and England at William's mercy, he marched on London, and on Christmas Day of 1066 he was crowned as King William I. William knew that England wasn't going to lie down, and there were many rebels trying to get revenge. So controlling this new wild country was going to be difficult. There were many rebellious lords who wanted to stop William from conquering the entire kingdom. However, those that resisted were put to the sword in terrible shows of force. Although William was able to put down rebellions, he needed a more long-term, permanent solution. William had already begun building castles as he had marched towards London, one of which had been built at Dover, so that he could control the narrowest point between his homeland in France and the English coast. But Dover wasn't all he built, and over the next 20 years, William would go on to build hundreds of Motte and Baileys all across Britain. So what does a typical Motte and Bailey castle look like? The Motte and Bailey had quite a distinct design. The motte was a large mound of earth in a cone shape. This was man-made by piling soil, then stone, to make it more solid. It could be anywhere between 10 and 30 metres high and provided a good height advantage to see all around in all directions. But this was hard work to build. For example, William's Motte and Bailey needed 22,000 tons of soil to make a motte. So the motte was the same as 15,000 cars piled on top of each other. That's a really heavy amount of land, but needed to keep the motte stable. On top of the motte would be the keep. This would be made of wood, and was where the lord of the castle would live with his family. It was also the strongest part of the castle, and needed to be the last line of defence in case the castle was invaded. Later, wooden towers were replaced with stone ones, like this one at Cardiff Castle. The keep was connected to the rest of the castle by the bridge, a wooden set of stairs that gave easy access. Of course, this bridge could be removed if the castle was under siege, which would make attacking uphill very difficult. The bottom layer of the castle held the bailey. This was where people from the surrounding countryside might come to work or to trade, and it might contain market stalls, blacksmiths, stables, bakeries, kitchens, houses, and soldiers' quarters too. Of course, a good castle requires a good wall, and the Motte and Bailey used wooden planks to make what was known as a palisade fence. This was upgraded to stone as time went on, but for quick and easy building, wood was an excellent material. And of course, one of the key features of a Motte and Bailey was the moat. This was a channel dug a few metres deep and usually surrounded the whole castle. This added extra protection and discouraged attacks from all around the castle. Sometimes the moat could be left empty, but would be dug deeper to make it really hard for attackers to charge up to the walls. Some Motte and Baileys also had drawbridges, which were also wooden and could be lifted and lowered as needed. This provided the main entrance into the castle. So Motte and Baileys might look cool, but were they actually effective? What were some of the advantages of Motte and Bailey castles? One advantage was defence. The wooden walls provided protection from direct attacks and arrow fire, while the motte provided a great line of sight to see from miles around to give an early warning of attack. The moat was sometimes so wide and deep that attackers would get shot before they managed to cross. And some of the time people didn't know how to swim, and so the moat would stop people from wanting to go across because they knew they would drown. Or sometimes, with all their equipment and heavy swords, they would go in the river and drown. Which is why having one place, one gate, that forces people to attack that one spot is brilliant for defence, because it means you only have to worry about defending in strength one particular area, rather than having to defend the whole castle. Another advantage of the Motte and Bailey was that unlike later stone castles, they could be built relatively quickly and cheaply. Wood was quite an easy material to source from the many British forests, and Motte and Baileys could take anywhere from 50 to 100 days to build, which compared to later stone castles which took years, this was quite efficient. And Motte and Bailey Castles also worked. The local population were in awe at these new structures that were being built by the Normans. The Motte and Bailey was successful in creating industry and allowing people from the local population to work nearby and to trade. The Motte and Bailey became a focus point for multiple communities to interact with each other. But with all designs, there's always a flaw, and of course Motte and Bailey's also had some disadvantages. An obvious setback was the fact that wood was used to build the castles, and wood burns. So if attackers were clever, they might use fire to damage the walls before they attack. Wood also rots over time, and so large parts of the castle would need to be replaced as time went on. Also in summer, sometimes the rivers and the streams that supplied the moat would often not give as much water, or there would be dry periods where the water would dry out, therefore exposing the moat and taking away the advantage of the water. Therefore, if a Motte and Bailey's moat wasn't dug deep enough, in times of low water, it might make attacking very easy. We also have to consider that building tall Motte and Bailey castles put the Normans physically and metaphorically above the English people in the surrounding countryside, creating a master and a servant kind of hierarchy. So there are some of the advantages and disadvantages of Motte and Bailey's. They were quite a simple design, but quite effective. William was able to spread his castles all over England, controlling the local populations as he went. The highest concentration of castles were always built in areas where there was the most trouble, and building the castles there helped to subdue the local people and prevent trouble. Once William had a tighter grip over the control of his kingdom, he was able to begin a program of building with a different material, stone. Stone would end up being a much better material for longer lasting castles, but was much more expensive and time consuming to make. William was able to build the first stone keep in Britain, and it still stands today as the Tower of London. Although there are no complete, original wooden Motte and Bailey castles around today, the stone fortifications that William and his descendants would go on to build continue to stand the test of time. If you enjoyed this video and would like to find out more about history, why not subscribe to our channel or follow us on Twitter or Facebook?